Of course it's got to be the goddamn Yankees. This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 184 of the O The Anthem podcast. It is 9:27 Pacific. That makes it 12:27 Eastern. And O The Anthem is live from coast to coast.
Yes.
Coming to you from the hashtag OTA LA studios, high above the 110 freeway in beautiful downtown Los Angeles, California. And another special hashtag OTA After Dark episode.
Yeah, this one was predicated mostly on the fact that neither one of us would be here this weekend.
Yeah,
so.
It's going to be a crazy weekend.
Yeah. But thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for downloading, for sharing, for saying nice things on iTunes. Every single little bit of it is appreciated.
Absolutely.
And even if this week, when this episode is released, if you want to just like it on Twitter or something like that,
yeah.
It means the world to us.
Like and share.
Yeah.
And another thing that I'm listening back, by the way, you should be following along on our social media, at Robert N. Cheek, at LegendCB5, and at O The Anthem. If you've been following along, I've been doing the hashtag OTA flashback as I listen back through all of the episodes.
Right.
And one thing we haven't talked about a lot, which we should, is that you can still click on the Amazon banner at otheanthem.com. It costs you nothing extra, but it helps out the podcast. So I know everybody's gearing up to do their shopping for fall events, Thanksgiving.
Maybe you're ordering a Halloween costume on Amazon.
Sure. Christmas is certainly coming. I know my family is already getting ready for Christmas.
Right.
Maybe you have somebody who is looking for homecoming dress or getting ready for a New Year's party or any number of things.
Or just people need to buy shit on Amazon.
Oh, we buy shit all the time on Amazon.
Yeah, you need I need new headphone pads.
So
I have new headphone pads. I ordered them from Amazon. Click through the link. You order those pads. It's the same exact thing as if you had just gone to Amazon the first time, only we get a little taste.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a great way to help
pay some
the
bills.
podcast.
Yeah.
And so, we don't have the Patreon account anymore. So this is a great way that you can help out the podcast. It does, like I said, it doesn't even cost you anything.
I will say this. I haven't given up on the Patreon account.
Yeah.
I think that there were many reasons where we had shortcomings on it.
Yeah.
Mostly the move.
Yes.
But
we weren't producing a lot of extra content.
Right.
For that
when
time
we were
period.
trying to figure all that out.
Yeah.
But, at some point in the future, I hope we can retool and come back with I didn't want a less than superior product out there. And that's always been one of my standbys on that.
But in the meantime, go to the Amazon link. It's right there at otheanthem.com. And you can actually bookmark it as Amazon. So when you click on a link, it'll take you directly through as if you're going straight to Amazon, but it helps us out. So make sure you do that. Now, I also want to say a big thank you to so many people that I've heard from this week who have heard about the huge wildfires happening out in Orange County. And it's weird because I know that when I was in Maryland, you think about there's Los Angeles wildfires, and they're like, oh, man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But now that we live here, the wildfires aren't really close to us at all.
They're close enough in the fact that Long Beach was like covered in smoke.
Yeah, Anaheim, there were some like pretty crazy pictures at Disneyland.
Yeah, very zombie apocalypse pictures of Disney.
Yeah.
But the most of it, the really terrible parts of the fire are pretty much up north of San Francisco at the moment.
Yeah.
There are some very stark pictures.
Yeah.
Where you'll see the exact same angle of a home 3 weeks ago, and then the next week, and the entire neighborhood is burned down.
Gone. Yeah.
There's a bunch of family wineries that have just been completely ruined. It's part of the deal out in the West. Just wildfires are a way of life. Whereas we don't have to worry about like hurricanes or something like that. I feel like there's always something out there.
Well, we're getting
everywhere.
We're getting to experience our first Santa Ana season very shortly. It's supposed to start. I don't know when the winds come exactly, but I will say that I've clearly become acclimated to California because it's 65 degrees out tonight, and I'm a little chilly.
Yeah,
and I'm just waiting for those warm.
You were out on the deck going like, oh, it's a little cold tonight.
Yeah. I'll be excited when the Santa Anas come blowing in out of the desert and bring that
evil
nice
Santa Ana winds.
Yeah. But I do want to say a thank you to everyone who reached out over this past week to say, hey, are you okay? Is it close? A few weeks ago, we talked about the Tuna Canyon fire.
Yeah.
Which was a lot closer to us.
It was in Burbank. Yeah.
We could actually see at night some of the flickering at the top of the ridge. This one is further out of town, and then again, the big fire is up north in San Francisco. So, and it's weird for people to understand this, but California is a big state. I had a bunch of people this week say, "Hey, why didn't you drive up to Oakland to catch the Ravens game?" And I'm like, "Listen, it's not like going from my house to Baltimore to catch the game. It's if we drove from DC to Boston,
it's easier to go to Vegas than it is to go to Oakland." And I mean, as far as seeing the Raiders are concerned, it would be an easier trek a couple years from now when they're in Vegas than it will be.
Yeah. But we
also, just as an aside, because I went to visit the Coliseum on my way back from San Francisco the last time I was there. Shithole. It's not. Yeah. It's not the perfect place to watch a football game.
It'll be a lot better in the new stadium in Las Vegas.
And then furthermore, Brendan had gone to a Oakland Ravens game before, and told me that the fans are even worse in Oakland, if you can believe it.
I imagine it would be.
I don't know if I'm really in the mood for spending $150 on ticket and travel.
Yeah. And a hotel, or
well, I mean, we could crash with Brendan hypothetically, but I mean, like, still, you'd have to go up the night before. You'd have to wake up early and go out, make the trek to Oakland. And it's not like I think the worst part of it is it's nowhere close to Oakland itself.
Yeah,
it's in Alameda, which is like if basically the Ravens played in Sparrows Point,
right?
Like
the worst part outside.
Yeah,
of town?
like if there was like if instead of the city, they played at Bethlehem Steel. They just built.
I'm getting an evil eye from somebody who's from the Sparrows Point area right now. But no, and what I was getting at is people on the East Coast have no idea how big California is.
Yeah.
Literally, DC to Boston is the distance.
From LA to San Francisco.
Right.
And then there's still a lot of state north and south of
both
LA and San Francisco.
Yeah, it is a big state. It's most of the western part of the shoreline of the U.S. And even when you look on a map, it doesn't look like that far apart, but just... It really is. And there's a whole lot of nothing in between. There's big stretches of nothing.
If I can also nerd out for just 1 second.
Yeah.
The Mercator projection has been lying to you for your entire life. So if you look at the map as you associate it, it's based off of how it would fit around a globe,
right,
and how it would look flattened out.
If you could just cut a globe and flatten it. Yeah.
But the problem is that at portions of that globe, it's smaller than it is at other points.
Right.
So it makes countries that are on the equator seem a lot smaller than they normally are, and ones that are on the poles a lot bigger.
Africa and Greenland appear to be the same size, when Greenland is 1/8 of the size of Africa.
Exactly.
So there you go.
Yeah, it's just like the other one I thought was weird was like I saw like Texas being put on Europe.
Yeah.
And like mainland Europe is like completely engulfed by the amount of space that Texas has.
Because keep in mind, you can drive across almost the entirety of Europe. Well,
assuming you could. Yeah.
As long as you're not cutting through the mountains, as long as you're staying like along the coastline of Southern Europe, you could drive from Slovakia or Slovenia to
Portugal
France in a day.
Yeah.
Only not Portugal because you'd have to cross another mountain range. So then
that's right.
The Pyrenees to get out to
So you would be on the southwest French coast kind of thing. Yeah.
But from there all the way across the Mediterranean coast past Greece to Slovenia where Brendan and your family went.
Yes.
You could do that in a day.
Yeah.
It just like Texas is basically the southern coast of Texas is a day drive. So things are spaced out more than you would think. And you look at California and you're like, oh, look, LA, San Francisco, you could make that drive. Yeah. We could, but it's like I said, it's like going to Boston from DC.
Also, the other thing, I like to go to games. If I'm on the road, I like to either not care about it.
Yeah.
Like the Dolphins game.
Right.
Like, we wanted to lose. We wanted to lose that game.
We planned those tickets thinking it was going to be a competitive game in a very nice place.
Right.
And it turned out to be a very nice place where there was some football being played.
But I'm saying if I went to Oakland for this weekend's game, assuming that I could have, I was working this weekend, but assuming I could have, I would have not felt very comfortable about it given the last 2 weeks of Ravens games.
Yes.
no, thank you. I don't want. I don't want to deal with Raiders fans if Flacco's going to throw like 4 picks in the first quarter or first half, and I'm just like,
the only thing worse than being there with the Raiders fans is after the game when they win.
Yeah.
Except for maybe when they lose. Like, I don't know which would be a worse scenario.
Well, they lost last season, right? When they played at M&T?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah,
because
we won.
that's when the 2 Raider fans put that one guy in the hospital.
Yes. Yeah. And that was in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Not in Oakland.
In Oakland, yeah.
Crazy. Anyway, so to get back to the point, appreciate all the thoughts and prayers and everything that everybody was sending out. We are in relative safety. What we said during the Tuna Canyon fire was the ability for a fire to get to our building is so taxed by the number of freeways it would have to cross to get here. They're just natural barriers to fire that I don't think that it's any really concern that a wildfire would get here.
Right. And not only that, but I mean, like, I feel like just realistically speaking, Dodger Stadium, like the Elysian Hills, would be the place where the fire would sort of get to and then stop.
It's just all asphalt up there.
Yeah, and then as soon as it hits asphalt, it would be a lot easier for the fire department to try and sway it away from downtown.
Yep. And that's what they want to avoid, because then the other problem is once it catches downtown, it would just burn through the entire city.
Yeah.
Because we're set for earthquakes, but not so much for the fire. But speaking of which, my big concern isn't wildfire. It's that a couple 2 weeks ago, again, you guys should be following on social media at Robert N. Cheek, at Legend CB5, and at O The Anthem.
Especially when you see Twitter tweets like, holy shit, was that an earthquake?
Yes, because we were sitting in the living room here and we felt a 4.0 that happened, in like Thousand Oaks, basically.
Yeah, so 15, 20 miles away.
Yeah, not even that. Probably not even that far away because it was south.
Well, I mean, as the crow flies, I guess it would be smaller.
So we felt it here, and that caused me to turn on or to find a Twitter account called LA Earthquake Bot, which just basically follows the U.S. Geological Society. And every time anything in the greater LA area happens, it sends a tweet. There have been a lot of earthquakes happening in the LA area in the last couple of weeks. Now, they're 1.5, 3.0, and as everybody at work who's been here a long time warned me, like, listen, if you're sleeping and a 4.0 hits, you won't notice it. It won't wake you up. A 5 might wake you up because something will fall off a shelf, and that will be what wakes you up, but the shaking itself wouldn't wake you up. It's when you get to a 6. That's when, like, they last longer. You'll feel it. The shaking itself will wake you up. But just seeing... And it's so weird because another great thing that this account does is that once a week, it basically shows you all of the red dots of the earthquakes that it's reported on in the week. And you get to see this line up and down the hills right to our east where all of these earthquakes are happening.
Yeah.
But luckily, I think we talked about when we have talked about earthquakes before, maybe that week that we experienced it. But our building was built 2 years ago. We're basically sitting up on big shock absorbers. So even if the earthquake happens, it's likely that we wouldn't lose things off the wall.
It's funny. I was speaking to Roberto earlier about this, and I said that I would much rather live in like a top floor of the Wilshire Grand.
Yeah.
Like if I was big baller status and I could buy extravagant properties, I'd rather be on the top of a really tall building like that than in one of those hills homes.
Oh, yeah.
Like the ones that are on like pegs that are like
stilts?
No, thank you. Like the at least under if the earthquake is too big, there's nothing that can be done to plan for it.
When the big one comes, the 10.0, no one is safe.
Yeah.
Our building this building is probably one of the better ones to survive. Not too tall, nice and broad.
Yeah.
As long as it
has a lot of surface area to absorb it.
And everything at the bottom 2 floors or bottom 3 floors is parking garage. So even if it pancakes down a little bit, it'll absorb it and not collapse the floors where people live.
Right.
Wilshire Grand, very tall. If the 10 hits, it'll sway a lot. That'll be a problem.
Yeah.
But I don't think it'll go over.
Right.
If you're in one of those stilt homes, though, you're going off the side of the cliff.
Yeah, there's nothing that can be planned to keep a home that's literally hanging on a hill.
Yeah.
On the hill.
even for a 6 or 7.
Maybe, who knows?
Yeah, I wouldn't be comfortable with it. But as I was pointing out to someone today, I was making a joke that like, oh, California's beautiful, it's great, but you have to put up with things like, oh, today it's like 70 and it's breezy. God, it's like it's not paradise. And they were joking about, Maryland has been hit by the remnants, not by a hurricane, but by the remnants of like 6 hurricanes thus far this year.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it's weird to get to the point where you're not really thinking about hurricanes anymore. We just have to think about things like wildfires and earthquakes and everything else. Like,
I mean, I would obviously no negative thoughts being directed at anybody who's had to deal with a hurricane this season.
Yeah.
Because there has been unusual devastation.
Yes.
But from my perspective as somebody who lived in Maryland, at least what I liked about hurricanes, if there's anything to like about them, is the fact that you can sort of see them coming for quite a while.
Yeah.
So if it looks like it's going to start going up the coast and heading towards where you live, you have a couple days to plan.
Yeah.
And like when Sandy hit, we went out to Home Depot and bought like things to like board up not board up the windows, but board up like the cellar.
Yeah, so it didn't flood inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we knew about that way in advance.
Yeah.
If we're here and the big one hits, then it just happens, and there's no like pre-warning, or if anything, there's a siren that happens like 30 seconds before.
Right. It's the duck and cover siren.
Yeah.
That's it. And by the way, I don't know what it sounds like. They don't run a test on it. They never know. I would know. I would know what to do.
I don't even know like where the siren would come from.
I feel like they're hidden places, and it just goes off. So like
maybe every single light post has like a little speaker in it, like a little bell or something like that.
But then the problem is it goes off, and you spend those 30 seconds going like,
what's going on?
What is that? Do you hear that?
Is there a lot of traffic going on outside? It seems like there's a
and then you never know what's gonna happen.
And then during the earthquake, I'm driving to Walmart to get my emergency earthquake kit
because we still haven't gotten that, and no water. We're just basically screwed. If the earth starts to shake, I'm just filling a bathtub. That's the only goal that we have. But the other problem about forecasting
Rachel's like, I don't want to drink bathtub water. It's like, well,
all right, well,
somebody's not going to be drinking for a couple days.
The other problem is that, again, hurricanes, you see them coming, there's a path. The one great thing about this, not so disconcerting thing about the LA earthquake bot is that you can watch them walk up. So, like, it'll start down at the Salton Sea, and then a couple hours later, there'll be another one, and then another one. And they're moving closer to LA.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's up north on the other side. There's like no rhyme or reason to it whatsoever.
Well, again, I another thing I'd like to bring up, just based off of you talking about the OTA flashback and California natural disasters, is that at one point you accused me of being a climate change denier.
Well, you were.
No, I wasn't a climate change denier.
Go onto Twitter and put in a search for hashtag OTA flashback and find the link where Corey is a climate change denier.
What I said at the time was
the
that
science is out.
No, I didn't say the science was out. I said that what we found a lot in science is that we have to go off the best principles that we have,
right?
But that we have been multiple times been proven wrong by science and then had to reverse course,
Sure, yeah.
So I'm not saying, I wasn't saying, like, fuck the scientists, they don't know what they're talking about. I was saying, let's not 100% prescribe our life to what's being said right now, because science has been proven to change with time. And that science itself is flawed if people aren't doing it to the same standards as science is expected to be. Like if I make just bring 10 smokers into a room and then say, because of the results of this survey, I found out that smoking is not, nobody in this room has cancer, so smoking
doesn't cause cancer.
Yeah.
I get that.
There's a lot of things that will be called a scientific study that involves something like that, and I'm saying let's not 100%, just don't make much like everything on the internet devolves to Hitler.
Yes.
Let's not say, just because scientists said this, it's 100% accurate.
Okay. And I conceded during that conversation that only 97% of the studies showed that there was a human impact.
Right.
But since then, the 3% of studies that showed that there was no human impact have been all restudied. And in each one of them, they found a statistical error that was purposefully put in to get the results that showed that humans had no impact.
And I get that. And I'm not saying that I don't believe any of this. I'm just saying,
Are you still saying that there is no such thing as climate change?
No.
Are you saying that there's a possibility that there's no such thing as climate change?
What level of possibility?
Do you think the Earth is getting warmer?
Yes.
Do you think man has had an impact on it?
Yes.
So then what is there to question? Where's the question about that?
Well, I'm saying, like, if you're giving me a 1 in a million odds that there's something afoot, that seems like a big enough breach that it's okay to take the 1 in a million odds. If you're saying, is there a 1 in 10 chance that this will all be proved as hooey?
Yeah.
Then no, I'm not not doing that.
I don't even... we literally have had the worst hurricane season on record.
Like, it's like if I said, give me odds 1% to 100%.
Yeah.
That I'll be able to make the Lakers next season.
0%.
You'd say 0%.
Yes.
But if I said, okay, now expand that to 100 million.
0%.
No, but I'm saying there's not even, when you, 400 trillion.
0%. There is no chance you would ever make the Lakers.
I'm just saying. There's,
but that is a great example.
At some point, there has to be.
No, there is no chance that he would ever make the Lakers, and there is no chance.
Well, fine.
That
We used to think that dinosaurs were lizards, and now we know that they're birds. They're
true.
And specifically the science. What I was getting to with that is specifically the science with earthquakes is not up to the level that you would expect everywhere else.
Yeah.
Because so much of it is predicated on figuring out what happened after the fact.
Yes.
There wasn't, for just, realistic purposes, there wasn't a way to figure out if something was going to happen prior to it happening. There wasn't
and still
the
there's
science.
Not.
Yeah.
Now it's our sensors are so sensitive that they pick up the very first shaking, and that's what the early warning is. The early warning is, here it comes, and get ready because you don't feel it yet, but you will.
Yeah.
And it's having a network so that as the shaking moves away from the fault, then it's picked up when it gets towards areas that have people in them. But yeah, the science isn't there for earthquakes. The science is absolutely there for climate change. So Corey's a climate change denier. Review that. He's standing by his climate change denial as we stand right here. But
shall we move on to other?
I was going to say, the good thing about this is that you'll have a lot to say about our second topic, which is a guy who can say, I was wrong. You're absolutely correct. I was wrong, but I'm going to sue you for pointing out that I was wrong. So if you listen to last week's episode, you heard us talk a wee bit about Harvey Weinstein and the trouble that he's in. And even in the few days that's followed, we have had some developments in that story. And you took the opportunity to read basically everything that's out there on the story right now.
Yeah. So real quick, just because if ever I had a fearful moment, it was this. This is being recorded on Wednesday, almost a full week before we release this episode. So if things have changed since then, just know that we're talking about this blind. So
I don't need, based on what I'm going to say, I have no fear of what I say. So go ahead.
Okay,
so
but
you're putting in the warning that I'm about to say some offensive shit, and if it turns out to be worse, then
no. I'm just saying, like, I'm not predicting that anything unusual is going to happen between now and then, but maybe on Thursday when what was the Weinstein Company is planning on brand change.
By the way, did you hear who's looking at buying his interest?
Who?
JayZ.
Oh, really?
JayZ wants to buy his interest in the Weinstein Company. But that basically what they're going to do is they're going to sell. Here's the legal aspect of it. You can't just change the name of a corporation.
Yeah.
You have to sell all the stock in the corporation to a new corporation that you formed. But you can change the name of a corporation if a high percentage of stock is purchased by a new person.
Yeah.
Because essentially that becomes a buyout, and it qualifies you for changing the stock certificate.
Yeah.
So my guess is they're going to sell to JayZ and then rename it something in his branding world. Because wouldn't that be smart for the Weinstein Company? To make it like 444 Entertainment or...
but then I don't know what the benefit is for JayZ necessarily.
Oh, because he wants to get into the movie business.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying, like, whether or not, regardless of the actions of Harvey Weinstein, separating the man from the producer, the reason why the Weinstein Company and Miramax was so important was because of Harvey and Bob. Yeah. Their ability to take indie movies and make them mainstream Academy Award winners, and when you lose Harvey, at least part of that package is based off of part of the value of the Weinstein Company is based off of Harvey's ability to do what he does.
So what does that do to the sell price?
It lowers it, but I'm saying
and JayZ is a smart businessman,
right? I'm not
what
saying
were the
it's
big
not
complaints at the last 3 Oscars?
Oscar so white.
Ooh,
yeah.
So now JayZ can buy a company for bargain basement prices.
Right.
He can bring in black management that will find young people of color who are filmmakers.
Right.
And it's a company that's proven to produce, although historically not so much recently, Oscar winners.
Yeah.
So I see in the future, I'm looking into my crystal ball here, a JayZ executive produced Oscar winner right here. Because I think Bob is still good. And Bob will see the potential in a film and be like, okay, so we have street cred because JayZ's here. And that guy who might have gone to Tyler Perry with his idea is now going to come to the Weinstein Company or whatever they call it.
I think what you're missing here is that Harvey and Bob, while brothers, are also pretty different people.
Yes, yeah. So you're saying Harvey was the one who was picking the winners?
I mean, Harvey's always sort of been seen as the one who's more creatively influenced in the business, and that Bob is just knows the numbers essentially. If you want to like put
Harvey went with his gut he went with some body part all the time.
Yeah,
and it led him in the right. No, I guess not so much. Never. Yeah. So what you're saying is that that's.
But I'm saying like if there's a press conference on Thursday,
yes,
and somebody's just like like how come you didn't say anything to Bob, or how come you didn't say anything to Harvey, and Bob gets up on the microphone, he's like, my brother's being unfairly categorized as a rapist, and this is bullshit. Yeah. Like I know it won't happen, but I'm saying like. If something like that happens, the reason we're not talking about it is because we recorded on Wednesday. Okay, That's all I'm saying.
Yes, fair enough.
If this turns, or how about this? How about a more likely scenario? Trump tweets out something about how Harvey Weinstein is this liberal guy who rapes women and like how dare he, and then the whole thing turns on Trump.
Yes.
Where it's just like, oh well how about the receipts we have on you, good sir? Like.
But I do find it ironic, by the way, that this story broke 1 year after the grab him by the pussy comment. And it's just like, but you still elected him president.
Yeah.
So it's going back to
what's funny is the number of articles that I'm reading like that talk about the myriad of high-powered people who have been befooled by a sexual harassment scandal in the last couple years, including, Cosby and Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that. Yet Trump still manages to
win the presidency.
Skate through.
Yep. I wonder why that is. There's got to be some kind of rhyme or reason to that.
Who knows?
Anyway, so getting back to Harvey. So today, as we record this, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is meeting about whether or not they are going to, I guess, I don't know if you kick him out or you just don't allow him to renew his membership, because I think it's a yearly thing, right? Like,
I don't remember how it works. You're not a lifetime member. You used to be a lifetime member.
Right.
Some people who were grandfathered in were upset recently because they had changed how you had to be.
Yeah.
You had to either be a member for like 3 decades or you had to... or you would lose your spot, essentially. So if you were a sound man for 15 years in the 70s, you were still voting up until recently. But I think now it's turned to like you're sort of provisionally in for a certain period of time until you've proven that you have a base of work that allows you to...
But one of the stories you read said that Harvey Weinstein is the second most thanked person in the history of the Academy Awards.
Right after Steven Spielberg and right before God.
That is insane.
Yeah.
So only God has been thanked at the Academy Awards more than Harvey Weinstein.
No, less.
Less than Harvey. No, wait.
Steven Spielberg is the only one who's been thanked more. Yeah.
Steven Spielberg, Harvey Weinstein, God.
Yeah. And
that blows my mind.
And for Steven, I believe that while he does have a very prolific career of producing things as well, and being a part of winners, I think that a good number of those too would probably just be directors who were up there going like, Steven Spielberg, I got to thank you. Like,
right,
like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your movies.
People inspired by him, especially in the last 10 years or so.
Especially because if you say that, then you get the camber pan to Spielberg, who's like, oh, please.
Yeah. And maybe
and it's
Spielberg
like a moment.
gives you a call on Monday.
Right, whatever.
Yeah.
But Harvey was always, it was because he had 300 nominations. Yeah. More than 300 nominations. So it's quite a incredible body of work.
Professional feat.
Yeah.
But as I said, they're now meeting, and there's a likelihood that he may be the second person to be kicked out of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Now, the first person was kicked out for sharing a screener.
Yeah.
Which I didn't read the story, but I imagine it's one of those situations that they wanted to make an example of somebody. To say, if you do this,
it sounds very much like the one person who gets like the outrageous jaywalking ticket.
Yeah,
and then,
or even more likely, the one or two people who got actually sued by the MPAA over spreading movies.
Right.
We got to make an example. Don't share your screeners with anybody. They're meant for you. And somebody does, and like, okay, well, we're kicking you out just to scare everybody else to do it.
Yeah.
But so they've only done once. Now, the list of people still in the Academy is an interesting list.
Well, I mean, Bill Cosby's still in the Academy, and Roman Polanski, and Woody Allen.
Yes.
And see, here's the thing. I guess this is the part that I've been stewing about the most, and not stewing in like a negative. Like the thing I've been thinking about the most.
Yeah.
Is that so much of this is about Harvey's influence.
Yeah.
Which is why things stayed quiet for so long. Anything that seemed like it was going to raise to the level of a problem was quickly met with his legal team and a a non-disclosure and a cash payout.
Yep.
Much like Bill O'Reilly, who had similar.
I don't think they were all cash payouts. There was a lot of NDAs, and this passion project that you really want to get done all of a sudden gets funded.
Yeah.
Because that's the other half of it is he's rich and powerful, which is great, but he's also influential. And if you wanted to get a passion project
and
done,
not only that, it was a lot of him talking about she's not going to do it because I've already started putting out things in the gossip magazines and people are already talking about what a whore she is and she doesn't want this to be on her.
Yeah, so I can, but it's almost, and this is one thing I thought about this week. It's almost a flashback to old Hollywood.
No,
where
but
like
I mean,
Meyer could
old Hollywood and New Hollywood are remarkably alike in this manner.
Yeah,
and a lot of people will talk in the media about like anonymous sources.
Yeah,
and like whether or not this is a solid anonymous source enough that we can print it off of just that. Harvey Weinstein is like the example of like one of those anonymous sources where he would apparently call up somebody at the Post or somebody at Page 6 or whatever and just like
TMZ. I would say TMZ, but that's only recently. So.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just have a friend. If it was Harvey with Harvey Levin, like just texting him, being like, "Hey, did you hear Mina Savari's a slut?" Like, it's like you didn't hear it from me.
Mina Suvari, have you heard this? Yeah, crazy story.
With the coffee cup,
leaning over the cubicle.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, there's no way that's their office. That's a set. Let's not pretend like it's an office. Come on. Anyway, but yeah. So if you guys don't know, we highly recommend the "You Must Remember This" podcast.
Yeah.
Because I haven't listened to the full last season. I was saving it to binge, and then I haven't binged it, but I need to. But they go back.
I wasn't. I would say this about You Must Remember This. Obviously, if you just want to listen to them all, that's great. But they're season based.
Yeah.
So if it's something that you're not going to have an interest in, it's easy enough to skip ahead. Like. I wasn't really big. This one was Jane Fonda and Gene Seberg.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, but also not the most interesting story.
It's not Dead Blondes of Hollywood.
Right, yeah.
So.
Dead Blondes was really good.
Yeah.
The Star System and stuff like that.
Which is basically about Warner Brothers and MGM.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Yeah.
And that's the one I would say, to hear more about what we're talking about, check out the Stars of Old Hollywood.
Right.
Because it talks about how Louis Mayer and... the guy, Jack Warner, basically could run the town.
Yeah.
And if they wanted to ruin you, two calls would ruin you.
Yeah.
And if they wanted to make you, they could make you. And then you sign contracts and be stuck with the same people. But this is really a flash to that era. That who knew this, but Miramax was being run like that.
Here's the other thing too, and this is not to. This is a problem that goes far beyond Harvey.
Okay.
So I think so much of Hollywood is based off of like word of mouth and reputation, and the view of you.
Yeah.
So so much of like why when there were reports that like Harvey would force sexual or force oral on a girl, and she would be like, no, don't do this, stop.
Yeah.
And then eventually she's just like, he's not gonna stop. He doesn't know what no means.
Just gonna give in.
I'm just gonna give in and like try and get through this and then move on.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why after like they'll tell like somebody they're really close with like this happened, but don't tell anybody else because they don't want it to get out there that they were that Harvey did this to them, or that they were in some sort of place where a predicament, or they have to try and make arguments for why they felt uncomfortable or any of this. Like there's a big part of this thing is like a victim blaming mentality, where if somebody comes out and says something about somebody, that they get a blowback from it.
Yeah.
And this has happened all over Hollywood history, and not just with there were stories about like the gay upper class of Hollywood who would have these elaborate parties up in the hills and bring attractive men to the parties, and whether or not they were gay or straight, it was expected upon them if they're at this party and they want to have a career that they do things that they're not comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, I nobody should ever be put in a position where they're uncomfortable.
Right.
Or, if it should be a no means no kind of situation.
So here's the big question.
Yeah.
And I think it's a question that a lot of people are asking. We put a lot on the victims to speak up, even though they are probably the ones in the worst position to try and speak up.
Right.
Because a lot of these are actresses that are just short of or on the brink of making it. Some of them are at the prime time to switch, like push their career to the next level.
I would say the other side of it too is there were a couple stories that I was reading where Harvey would see an actress and he would just be like, or a waitress at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And he would get to talking to her, and obviously because she knows he's Harvey, she would be like, oh, I'm an actress. I want to be an actress one day. And so it's like, well, you got it. He'll compliment her and make her feel good. And he'll be like, you should come by for a screen test.
Yeah.
Like come by
hotel room.
Come by tomorrow to the office, and we'll set up a screen test. And then there would be like a woman casting director in there trying to make this whole thing comfortable. Yeah. And then eventually everyone sort of goes away and it's just Harvey and this girl. And that's when something happens.
Yeah.
And I also maintain that probably a lot of Harvey's behavior has to do with women who would throw themselves at him.
Okay.
I get this sense, and I don't have anything like specifically to like pull from it, but it felt like Harvey's been in the position where he gets a lot more sex than he would under normal circumstances.
If he were just you or me?
Yeah, if he was just a guy named Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
Because he is big and powerful. And women would, maybe he thinks he's a bit more of a Lothario than he really is. Because so much of this, it seems like he's pulling moves like, coming out in the robe and just being like, oh, you want to give me a massage?
My old college friend who took his dick out at every party.
Yeah.
Because eventually, it always worked. Eventually, it always worked.
Right. And that Harvey probably had a 85% success rate with this type of thing, and when it didn't work out, he could lean on the fact that he probably wasn't going to hear anything about this because nobody wanted to have their career ruined by accusing me. And then if for whatever reason it got further than that, we could always just pay him off and get it out.
Because money fixes everything.
Right.
Well, and so that's not good.
No.
And I don't want to make it seem like that is okay. That's just the situation.
No, but I'm just saying it feels to me, and I'm not trying to I'm not trying to take sides or anything here. I mean, obviously the things that Harvey has actually done are galling and terrible enough that they stand alone.
Yeah.
But I'm saying there seems to be, at least from, it's almost like a character study thing. Like when you get into the mind of creating characters, you sort of see what little things sort of line up.
Right.
Like a lot of times you'll find, like as an example, you'll find a lot of times that people who don't drink or don't do drugs or don't do anything had a father or a mother or somebody who was abusing alcohol or drugs.
Right.
And they want to just do anything they can to not be that person. Preachers' kids
are the worst.
Yeah, they are
the worst.
They are the ones who go out and do the worst things because they're fighting back against what came before them.
Yep.
There's just something about him that just feels like, if I give the "I'm sorry you feel this way" apology,
right?
I didn't mean any disrespect by it. I don't mean to. It wasn't to belittle you. It was a compliment.
Right.
Is like enough to like get him through any of these negative situations.
But so again, back to the question though.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've put a lot of pressure on the victims to speak up. But part of these reports were that people at Miramax / the Weinstein Company were aware, and some of those people were assistants, and other people whose livelihoods required. Much like the victims, they could say, if Harvey says you're never going to cast in this town again, he may very well make it so that I can't cast anyone.
Right.
My whole career's done. But there has to be an understanding that at the upper level, maybe Bob, but certainly the upper level of the management there, that they knew this was going on.
Well, I mean, half the executive board got fired as well as Harvey.
For covering it up.
Yeah.
So my thing is, why was no one else speaking up? I understand why the victims don't speak up. I understand why the assistants don't speak up, and the other people who depend on him for a livelihood. But there was a whole echelon of, you're still under him, I guess, but in a way you're equals. He's not going to ruin you because you're going to go from Miramax to WB or somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, well, I mean, Harvey had some pretty horrible things. Well, let me tell you about Harvey. You heard those stories? They're all true.
Well,
I got tired of covering for him.
Here's the thing. There's a lot of part of the reason why these stories came out like they did was because it was so talked about for so long.
Yeah. It's a Bill Cosby thing.
Yeah. Like people knew that it was happening, but nobody nobody would be willing to put their name in print for one. And then nobody would be willing to sort of go out there as much as, see, it felt like they got like 4 stories in the New York Times.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, okay, it's safe now.
Everybody's talking.
Yeah. I mean, Gwyneth Paltrow's on that list, so we can, like, this is not going to turn back for Harvey.
Right.
So we're safe to speak about it now. Well, and then there's also probably how many women who have signed NDAs that, like, they'd like to get involved in talking about what a creepy is. But
I'm not giving the cash back. I'm not doing it. But just to remind everybody, the Bill Cosby thing broke because Hannibal Buress continued to do a joke about how everyone knows that Bill Cosby is a rapist.
But here's an interesting thing. Seth MacFarlane, when he was doing the Oscars announcements, the nominations, a couple years ago, had said when he was doing the Best Actress nominee, made a joke that was, well, there's 5 women who never have to pretend like they like Harvey Weinstein anymore. So, I mean, these jokes
They're out there.
They were making their way out there. It's just not like anybody heard it and then was able to. It's not actionable. That's the thing. If you're gonna put in the New York Times that Harvey Weinstein has been a sexual assaulter, then you better have a lot to go off of. You can't. This is not a time where you want to play fast and loose with your journalistic integrity.
Again,
because he will sue you for everything.
Hannibal Buress can do it. Seth MacFarlane can do it because they're comedians.
Yeah.
And in the end, there's a level of like, well, I was just joking. Wait, are you going to sue me? Does that mean that it's right? Because the other thing about suing a comedian is a libelous lawsuit. The best way to beat that is to prove that it's the truth. So everything is discoverable. And if an interesting point of law. Why do comedians never get sued over stuff that seems like it could be true? Because as soon as you start a lawsuit, Now I get access to all of your NDAs. And I get to see what are all those NDAs about.
Right.
And then I can go into court and say, okay, so...
I made a joke about Bill Cosby raping people, and it was probably untoward. But here's all the NDAs that I found for all the women he raped.
Yes. And so then it has to be dismissed because I told a joke. I didn't know it was true at the time. Turns out it is true, so it's not libelous. So that's why you don't see those guys getting sued. But the New York Times or the New York Post has a whole different thing that they have to worry about because although it is the same matter of like, hey, it's the truth, so I can write about it.
Yeah,
they can't just make unfounded opinions.
Yeah,
or they turn into the Weekly World News, which is a whole different ballgame. And speaking of a whole different ballgame, I want to move on to something that I don't think have ever talked about in the podcast before. And I'm a little sad that we have to talk about it now. U.S. men's soccer.
We have, in fact, talked about it before.
Have we?
Yeah.
When did we talk about it?
We talked about it during the last World Cup.
We have been doing this podcast far too long. If we've lasted until between World Cups, it's just time to call it, I think. It's just time to be done.
Because one of our first episodes, I want to say like
soccer.
episode 5 or 6 or something like that, when we were doing the This Week on the Podcast videos.
And you did
I did the Brandy Chastain taking my shirt off and whipping around my head thing.
Everybody needs to go to youtube.com/O The Anthem, scroll way on back to 2014 and find that video. That was amazing. It was an amazing video. So I guess we did talk about it back in the day. But now the U.S. men's soccer team is in the news for a different reason.
Yeah, they have been eliminated from qualifying for the World Cup.
Right. So we're going to bring back an old standby, something that we've done before, which is point counterpoint, where we just have a discussion about whether or not them being eliminated is a good thing or a bad thing.
Okay.
And you are going to take the position that
it's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing. And I'm going to take the position that it's a good thing. So I will give you the first go. Let's call opening statements at 2 minutes.
Okay.
All right. And
you waiting for like the change?
Begin.
All right. So here is why it is important that the U.S. men's national team is part of the World Cup. Number one, America is a draw. Mm-hmm. Much like in other corrupt sports where teams that don't deserve to make the playoffs often make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, the NBA, where how long has it been since you haven't seen a team from New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, or Houston, the 4 biggest media markets, not in the playoffs?
Or Miami.
Or Miami.
Or Cleveland.
Yeah,
but Cleveland's not a huge media market. It just has the biggest player in the world.
Yeah, which is why you will... If the Cavaliers were the 9th seed going into the last game and it was a win or go home, I guarantee you they're winning that game. The referees have it in the bag. And as far as corruption, nothing quite out-corrupts FIFA.
Yes.
So I feel like even though we're in the back 9 of the FIFA corruption scandal that has brought down many of the high-level executives.
See our episode about the Qatar World Cup.
Yeah.
Probably episode 90 somewhere
that.
in there. Yeah.
You can find out when it happened and then just find the corresponding podcast that goes with it.
Yeah.
But the one that I just can't believe that there's not a way you can drop like $200,000 in cash like at the doorstep of somebody's house, and then all of a sudden Trinidad and Tobago don't win their qualifying matchup, and the U.S. slips in, and then we don't have to worry about this national embarrassment, international embarrassment. Because I was with Mexicans and Brazilians today.
Yes.
And
how are they doing?
They're both in. Mexico was in before this thing even started. They got an automatic for something. I don't know what it was. I feel like the Americans should have gotten that automatic. Like, we have to have America in the games, obviously.
Right, yeah.
And, obviously, Brazil's a perennial. But I think it's best for soccer if you just concede that a certain number of teams are going to make it regardless.
Okay.
Like, Brazil's always going to make it. The U.S. is always going to make it. England should always make it. Germany should always make it. China and Japan should always make it.
Okay.
Where else? I feel like there should be leanings towards teams that especially in like the European, like Italy should make it and Spain should make it, but they don't have to. If they're not competitive enough, we shouldn't have to force them.
Okay.
Whereas, like in America, should be forced into the conversation.
Okay.
And I really hate that. As somebody who hates the Yankees myself, that I have this sort of American exceptionalism about it. Like, how dare America not make the World Cup?
Right.
Like, we should be paying to get it. Like, we should be, with the amount of money we're putting into this men's national team, we should be in the World Cup every single year. And we should be competing for it almost every single time the tournament rolls around, you know?
Okay.
That is basically my...
All right. So, counterpoint.
Yes.
How did the U.S. fare in the 1980 Olympics?
Good. I don't remember the 80 Olympics. What the hell?
They're famous for a very important reason.
Oh, the Miracle on Ice?
No.
That was 82.
Yep.
Yeah.
That'd be the Winter Games. What happened in 1980?
1980. I don't remember.
So let's go back through the Olympic Games.
Okay.
76. Where were those games?
Again, you're not...
Dude.
What?
All right. 84.
LA?
84. Where were those games?
LA?
Okay.
Yeah.
88. Where were those games?
I remember Atlanta in 96.
Right. Before that was 92. Where were those?
Oh, no idea.
Barcelona. 88. Where were those? Seoul, South Korea.
Okay. Well, that was in 88.
84. Damn. Where were those?
LA.
80. Where were those? Moscow, Soviet Union.
Oh, yes.
So how did the U.S.
and the Russian
fare?
gymnasts and stuff like that, yeah.
How did the U.S. fare in the 80 games?
Not great because the Soviets were pumping their... What?
The U.S. boycotted the 1980 Olympic Games. We didn't go.
Yeah.
Okay. Why did we boycott the 1980 Games?
Because of Russia?
Because of Russia.
Yeah.
Because Russia invaded Afghanistan in 1979, and we felt that it was better for the cause of world peace that we skipped the games. Decision made by Jimmy Carter.
Okay.
When he was still president in 1979. So the reason that it's not a big deal that the U.S. didn't make the World Cup is that this is the perfect World Cup to skip. Why?
Because it's Russia?
Because we're having it in Russia. And once again, just like 1979, Russia has affected the future of world peace. How have they done that?
By working on our elections?
Right. By interfering in the United States elections.
And trying to do anything they can to try and reignite the USSR?
Yes. They are pushing for a new Cold War. They are interfering in our elections. There is no way that this Russia is any worse than the 1980 Russia. And we addressed the 1980 Russia by boycotting the games. So we don't have the moral high ground of boycotting the World Cup now.
So what you're essentially saying is that America, since they've already been eliminated, should pull well, you can't break up with me because I'm breaking up with you.
Listen, I'm not saying that we should. I'm saying that Trump might do that because that's basically how he runs his life.
That's the Trump.
But what I'm saying is the thing we can avoid doing is sending our athletes there and spending money there and spending tax dollars there because everything they do is paid for by the United States taxpayer.
Right.
So no travel, no expenses, no nothing. We're not boycotting the games, but we're happy we're not going because we don't want to increase the Russian economy at all. We want to send a message to them that says, look how crappy your games are going to be. What is the watch percentage going to be in the U.S. without the U.S. in the World Cup?
Oh, I mean, it'll still be good.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all the foreigners will be watching it, but what about the Americans?
I'm saying it's the premier global event. So I mean, it every single 4 years it gets eyeballs, regardless of whether or not the U.S. is in it.
Right.
But I'm saying it's probably best, much like the Yankees in the playoffs. It's best when the U.S. is in it, and even if it's as for the rest of the world, the enemy of
the
yeah.
Yes. But in the end,
as a villainous role, I guess I should say.
When I watch the World Cup, I don't give a crap about soccer. Couldn't care less. Don't watch the MLS. Don't watch the Premier League. Watch none of it. But I would watch games that were not the U.S. because it impacts who the U.S. plays next. It impacts other people in their bracket. So I'm like, I'm really going to get into this El Salvador versus South Korea game because if South Korea wins, or at least if they score 3 goals, that bumps the U.S. up in their bracket to it, and then we're playing here and all of that stuff. Because I care about where the U.S. is. Without that, I think viewership in the U.S. except for amongst soccer fans who are going to watch no matter what, is zilch.
Yeah.
Just like the 1980 games where we boycotted, there was almost no coverage or no viewership of the games. Because why do you watch the Olympics if you're not rooting for an American?
Oh, that's my point.
Yeah. So the same impact will be felt on the World Cup there. And if Russia has the worst watched World Cup ever, I think it sends a message. Because we have 300 million people who...
This is an argument for why the U.S. should essentially be in.
No, it's why they shouldn't be in.
You're saying they shouldn't be in because it would be so much better if they were in.
Right.
That's the argument you're making.
It would be better for Russia, and we don't want to make things better for Russia right now. We want to make them worse for Russia. We want to send a message to them in the world.
I'm gonna bring this back to soccer for just a second. What really upsets me the most about this is if it was a plucky group of lads from America who were just trying their best and just didn't make it.
Yeah.
I would be like, all right, well, you can't be good every time.
Yeah.
So you can't, if you're a soccer powerhouse like Brazil, then you're always going to be in because you're always going to be good.
Yeah.
But if you're a company on the line like America, then it's understandable you make it in or you make it out. But I hate the fact that we spend so much money on this damn team, and we spend all this money to try and make this team competitive and go to the World Cup, especially at the sense of like hiring Jurgen Klinsmann.
I have no idea who that is.
He's a German soccer coach who's been coaching the men's national team
in Germany.
Or
in the U.S.
In the U.S. Okay. But I'm saying we had to bring in a German coach
to improve our soccer
team, which is fine. There's no rule against bringing in a German coach to coach another team.
Sure.
But if I'm going to have to live with the indignity of not having an American coach good enough to coach this team,
at least,
and we got to bring in a German, then I expect results. I'm not.
Okay.
It'd be like if the Red Sox to win a World Series had to bring in Aaron Judge or Alex Rodriguez after their Yankee careers. Like they would all be like, all right, well, I guess or Jeter. Jeter would have been a great example. If Jeter came to the Red Sox for the last couple of years, then that was the missing piece. Like everyone would grit their teeth and be like, all right, well, Jeter better bring us a bunch of rings.
We better win. Yeah. We better win.
But if Jeter retires and there's no rings for the Red Sox, it will not go well.
Right.
The whole city of Boston will burn.
But again, so what is your argument that yes, we should have made it. We have the team to make it. We're paying the money to make it. But that doesn't mean anything. Who cares about any of that stuff? It's soccer. We as Americans do not care about soccer, as we should not care about soccer. Because it's
the most popular sport in the world?
Right. Amongst people who have no other sports. You're right. Amongst people who play no other sports, it is the most popular sport in the world.
Well, also you got to consider that most people play it because it's the most affordable sport in the world too.
Absolutely.
I mean, like you know
what's also affordable? Stick ball. Let's play a little baseball. How about that?
They do play baseball with just sticks and balls.
Yes.
In like impoverished countries like Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic.
Right.
But Puerto Rico, the U.S.
Territory,
yes. Not country. But I'm saying,
I didn't correct you. I was just going to let you go.
I was just saying. I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't confused in my speech.
Sure. Okay.
But it's just really it's the only part of my Americanism where I want to be like, if the U.S. isn't the best, then everyone else sucks, and just like, America should be in everything. Why wouldn't you want it?
See, but that's like getting hard up because in the Olympic Games, like we fall short in the skeleton. Or handball.
I do hate when we fall short in something that like
you don't understand.
I know nothing about.
Yeah, why?
Just assume that America should be the best.
All right, I don't, and so that is everything that's wrong with the country, though. It's just,
but it only seems to happen in sports, though. It really is like
we're better.
No, I don't feel this way about like anything else. I'm just like I don't find myself going like, oh well, Rome doesn't have architecture like America does. Like, look at this big fucking tall building. Like,
okay,
have you seen the Wilshire Grand?
At sports, we feel like it should be.
In sports, it's definitely like, why the fuck didn't America win handball? Like, aren't we the best at handball? And somebody else would be like, no, do you know that Russia is really great? It's like,
No.
Well, why can't we be better than them? Like, what's holding us?
So what you're saying
what is U.S. men's national handball not doing that Russia is doing?
In things that you don't understand, you think we should be the best. And in things that you do understand, you understand that we're not the best.
Right.
Okay. That is America in a nutshell. Welcome to America in 2017. Every Trump voter.
Oh, God.
Right here. Right here.
But seriously, we should fire the entire decision-making process of the U.S. men's national team.
Sure.
Directly into the sun.
But in the end, it's the guys on the field. We can agree that in the end, it's the guys on the field.
Yeah, and another thing. I talked about this with Ovechkin in the Olympics.
Yes.
I don't know if I did this on the podcast or not.
No, we talked about it out in the street.
Okay.
We were waiting for
But the NHL has decided that they're not going to let players take the break for the Olympics this year. That we're not going to take 3 weeks off in the middle of the season. You got to play regardless. Yeah. And Ovechkin's basically like, fuck you.
Oh, feeling an injury coming on.
Yeah, I will play for Russia whether or not you like it or not.
Yeah.
I will just go, and the Caps are cool with it, and see you when I get back. And I feel like if we're in the middle of the MLS season right now, apparently. I don't know.
Who knows?
I can look up and find.
And that's how little we care about soccer, that's why it doesn't matter.
Hey, Roberto, is there a football thing going on in Mexico right now? Is there what? Is there leagues playing in Mexico right now? Yeah. Okay. So it's soccer season.
Sure. But they play in Mexico and in Europe all year long. It depends what league you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. So but isn't like
Premier League
plays
in one part?
This is totally American exceptionalism because I couldn't tell you more than one league. Or 2 leagues. I know the MLS and I know Premier League.
Yeah.
But I know there's other ones.
Yes, they have national leagues in Europe that don't just play in the World Cup, but that play year-round.
Oh, yeah. There was a game today. Houston Dynamo beats Sporting KC.
Even the names are stupid. God. I hate everything about soccer. I literally hate everything about soccer.
I want to find out when the next LA game is.
Well, are you actually going to go see it?
Maybe.
No, you're not. Don't lie to the people. Don't lie to our fans.
I might go look at it. I don't know.
Don't lie to our fans.
Well, let me get on Game Time real quick. See what the tickets look like.
All right. So while
you
do
bring it
that,
on to the next one?
No, we're out of time. So that's all the time we have for this week. We're not going to be able to talk. Our last topic that we were talking about was whether or not point counterpoint on Trump versus Tillerson and who would win the IQ test. But I think in the end, the way we can sum up that without actually getting into it is either way.
America loses.
America is the big loser in that.
Yeah.
Because there's no good answer to that question. It's all of it sucks, and unfortunately, we are stuck with these two people. Although luckily, it seems as though Tillerson has made a plan.
$20, by the way,
because nobody wants to go.
But that's versus the DC United too. DC United, who I happen to know are MLS royalty because they've won so many championship cups.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the name of the MLS cup is.
Whatever their cup is.
The MLS cup.
But either way, the good news that I heard this week about Tillerson was that he and Kelly have a plan that if Trump ever makes a move for the nuclear football, that they're just going to tackle him. I'm like, that is fantastic. At least we have a plan in place for that. So in the end, America loses no matter who wins the IQ test. Because
Trump, by the way, much like many narcissists I know, claims to have a 200 plus IQ.
Right.
Which I haven't seen the documents for. So.
And I do not believe at all, not in the least bit, do I believe he has a 200 IQ. I refuse. If he does...
well, I'm just saying, if anyone wants to prove whether or not they have a 200 IQ, they could always whip out the receipts anytime they feel like it.
Well, and to be fair, there's really no such thing as a 200 IQ. The Mensa test goes up to, an accurate IQ test only goes up to 155, and above that, they call it 155 plus. Because little things can change a test above 155.
Yeah.
It's like, the certain questions that they ask aren't in your direct field of knowledge, or it was cold in the room, so you were moving a little slower than you might otherwise, or it's hot in the room, or there's somebody next to you tapping their pencil. Like little things like that can have an impact over the the score when it's that close.
It's kind of like have you ever seen like in Madden where they have the kicking meter?
Yes.
And like when it comes back, there's like that sway distance that's a lot faster.
Yeah.
That as soon as it gets to a certain level on the test, it just starts moving real quick.
Yeah.
So
And that's basically how it works. So like
gradient hill, like for like this part of the hill.
Yeah.
It's fine. And then as soon as you get to a certain level, it's hard to.
Only the opposite direction.
Yeah.
You may know somebody with an IQ that's over 155 and just it's unable to be accurately tested. Anyway, and I would eat my pants if Trump had a higher IQ than me. Literally, I cannot. I don't want to live in a world where that is possible. He is wealthy because his daddy gave him money.
Yeah,
and he didn't lose it.
And just two quick things.
Yeah.
Just before we get out of here,
I can't trying to comprehend a world where Trump is smarter than me, and it makes me want to kill myself. I don't. Yeah. I wouldn't want to live in that world.
Intelligence doesn't decide whether or not someone's smarter than you. It's just the ability to computate knowledge.
Right.
The example I made to you earlier was somebody with a high IQ is like owning a Bugatti Veyron.
Yes.
You have that horsepower potential, but whether or not you use it is another thing. So if you have a Bugatti, but you live in LA, then you're never getting up to the high end of the spectrum.
Right.
You're only going 10 miles an hour.
But it looks nice.
Yeah.
It looks nice, and it's great to say, but you know.
And then also, just from my experience of going to many Mensa annual gatherings, I will tell you that there is a big disconnect between people who are able to do incredible things when in the right pretense. Like if you put a big math problem on a board, they can go right to it and figure it out. But then also if you ask them like, how's the weather? And they just like eat their hat.
Yes.
They don't know. They don't know how to do social, or they don't know English, or they don't know any of these things, but they have the ability to.
I have been blessed by having extremely high IQ and also the ability to function in public. So and these cute dimples. I mean, right? Really?
Beyond anything else.
I'm a perfect package. Perfect package.
Just in case you're looking to procreate.
Just in case anybody's out there looking. So we're not getting back to that. I don't want kids. No. Everybody. Don't send me emails. Do not send me messages. No. I'm just joking. Anyway. What was your second thing?
Oh, shit.
High IQ does not equal ability to function.
Trump also, just as my one Trump III moment from this week, he had a town hall type event with Sean Hannity and was looking around at the crowd of people who are like coal miners and deadbeat dads and other Trump voters.
Oh, shots fired.
And said... talking about the Iran deal and the $2.7 billion that it was.
Yeah.
Saying like, that's $2.7 billion. I mean, you guys have all seen a briefcase with $1 million and 100 finely manicured $100 packages or $100 bill packages.
Don't be superfluous.
Right.
He literally just said, I mean, we all know what $1 million looks like, but $1 billion.
Yes.
And no.
Yeah.
They will never see $1 million in their lifetime.
Yeah. There's some of these people who might work for 10 years before making $1 million.
More than that? The average coal miner makes about $30,000 a year.
I started doing this $100,000 thing. Yeah.
Yeah, 100 years.
Yeah.
So if you make $30,000 a year, you make $100,000 in a little over 3 years. Mm. So that means in a little over
30 years.
30 years.
Yeah.
You would make
There's that Mensa right there, figuring out the math on the fly.
There you go. So that means maybe in their working life, they have earned $1 million, not kept $1 million.
It would have been so much funnier if I was just like, you know, like $1 million. I mean, that takes like 2.5 years to do. And you're just like, what are you talking about? Just like, does it take longer for you, or
the first million's always the hardest?
I've been trying to keep my finances in order, and 2.5 years seems to be the quickest I can get to $1 million. I don't know what's holding me up.
Well, hey, if you got that kind of cash, we should talk off air.
Anywho, if you want to talk more about Daddy Warbucks, Fat Bucks, or Fat Stacks, Fat Bucks.
Oh, there's a t-shirt idea. Daddy Warbucks, Fat Fox. All right, yes.
There's only one place for it. OTheAnthem.com. Corey to OTheAnthem.com. O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595.
And you can find me on all your social networks at Robert N. Cheek. Make sure you check out robertncheek.com, where you can find links to my political blog, foundingthefuture.us, to adeaddrop.com, which is back and better than ever. If you're looking to get away from all the political stories, kind of like we did this week, actually, not talking about Trump, not talking about anything big, you have
except for the very end, we gave you a spoiler-free.
Yeah, but you can find stories on there that are hidden gems and hidden stories and funny stuff from all over the web, stuff that you would never see anywhere else. You can find all of that at adeaddrop.com, so make sure you check it out. And make sure you're following at adeaddropper on Twitter and check the drop on Facebook so you can get access to all those stories. But you can find links to that at robertncheek.com, as well as links to my books, which are available on Amazon.
Buy Rob's books.
And when you click through the links on my website, you will automatically be pushed through the Amazon link for O The Anthem. So that's a great way to support both me and O The Anthem at the same time. But if you're buying anything other than my books, make sure you go to that link at otheanthem.com for Amazon. Click through, costs you nothing extra, and helps out the podcast a lot.
Yeah, remember the 4-step checkoff. Buy Rob's books, shop on Amazon, leave a review, get a shirt.
That's you go.
The 4 steps to becoming our best friend.
Yep. And if you accomplish all 4 of those steps and send us a picture, we'll give you a prize.
Yeah, something.
Something. Yeah, we'll see.
I will send you a signed picture of Jurgen Klinsmann. I will sign the picture.
I was going to say, not his signature. Okay, fair enough. Yes.
I'll just sign it J, so I don't have to worry about where the U's and the R's and the G's are in that.
Yes. Well, anyway,
I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good, but as always, you've been listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
All right, so this one goes into new U.S. men's national team chants. I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe that we won't qualify. I believe that we won't qualify. I believe that we won't qualify.
I believe.